here yet again talking about the tragedy, the brutality at play in Gaza at this time. There are no words for Israel, the justifications that they have tried to pen out, to speak about, and its allies. There are no justifications for the killings of children and women every day. There are no justifications for the humanitarian pause that is being talked about, that is being agreed upon, when the only solution at this time is an immediate ceasefire to the kind of brutality that we are seeing every day, the kind of massacre that we are seeing, the kind of genocide that we are seeing at this time in Palestine. We'll be talking about how quick an option is ceasefire at this time for the people of Gaza, as they look towards only and only God and the help that can come from any quarter at this time. And the only solution for them is an end to this kind of inhumane, tragic genocide that we are seeing at this time. We'll be talking about whether the ceasefire is an option at all, whether the ceasefire is possible in the kind of allies that are vetoing out and out a ceasefire for Gaza. We haven't seen that happen, at least in a long time, and we talk about the history at play here when we talk about genocides in the past also. We're going to be talking about this a little later on. We'll also be talking about things on the political front at home, where we are seeing, of course, certainly electables and politics of electables. That seems to be something that all the major political parties seem to be angling for. Is this the style of politics we're going to see in the upcoming elections when we talk about seats? We've also had major political parties talk about two-thirds majority versus a simple majority, even if that is possible for one particular party at this time. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Dr. Amna Mahmood, who is an IR expert. Thank you for being with us today. And we'll also have Dr. Shabana Fayyaz, who is a foreign affairs expert. Thank you for joining us. And a little later on, we'll be joined by Agha Iqrar Haroon, who's a political analyst, and Rashid from the PPP. Please stay with us. Amna, Dr. Amna, there's a, like I said, when we talk about a humanitarian pause, that itself is a contradiction in terms, because there's nothing humanitarian about, a 4-day a pause, and when you're going to again start the brutality, again start the killing, and are these people going to wait for those 4 days to end for that to begin yet again? Do you think there's an option at all that things can move towards a ceasefire?
Yeah, Mahrukh, it's very irony, and you see that this term is coined by Mr. Biden, that instead he just simply vetoed the resolution for UN Security Council resolution for ceasefire, and they want to continue this war, and at the same time due to the American public pressure and European public pressure, they were convinced that there should be a humanitarian pause. Though it's very painful and ironic, but I think that the people's suffering, if you see the people suffering in Gaza, and there is no, there used to be 500 trucks daily for edibles and necessary items traveling from Rafah to Gaza. And now you have been seeing that there is no supply for even basic needs. So we can think that it is at least a breakthrough, that some of the people would have something to eat at least, because you see that there was no electricity, no fuel, no food, no medicines even, and Israel deliberately attacked on hospitals and all the tanks and food reserves. So I think that though it is very painful to say that this is not a humanitarian pause, but if you see the situation after 47 days war in Gaza, that is a little sigh of relief. And if the whole world would continue, as we see that there was a visit of Belgium Prime Minister and Spanish Spanish Foreign Minister and different people coming, I think that this pressure may lead to a permanent ceasefire.
I want to come to that. I want to talk about the pressure that you're talking about. We saw the stance of the world also. change. Would you agree that change a little bit? I mean, even when countries like, for example, France we've seen, and other countries like you're talking about, even Spain, take a step back and acknowledge that there are people, we saw their stance earlier. Do you think that there has been a softening? Do you think I'm not saying that it's enough. I'm not saying that it's even, it's anything major, but of course the Palestinian peoples deserve much, much more. But at the same time, do you see that the pressure that has built up has maybe forced them to acknowledge that there is brutality at play there?
Yeah, Mahrukh, it is what we call in international relation American style. They come with the death penalty and they soften their stance for 10-year imprisonment, and they are doing the same. Immediately we saw that all the Western powers were standing with the United States and with Israel to support Hamas. Actually they declared that all of them are involved directly. Civilians were involved, so they were the war target. Under no international law they are entitled to conduct that much brutality to civilians. And in international law we see that if you can miss a military target but you cannot target civilians, but the whole world was supporting, it is the public that is standing. And Mr. Biden, as he has to go into election next year, and rest of the world is facing the same, that you see in London, in Paris, there were demonstrations, despite that the police, you see police of much civilized countries, the first world police was treating their own masses like the third-rate police. And people were demonstrating despite the fact that they would be facing brutality of their own police. But you see the Jews, the Christians, and how the people of all age coming on the roads, it certainly had some impact. And that is reflected in pressure on Israel as well. And Israel previously they said that they would destroy Gaza, they would capture Gaza, but now they have changed their stance as well.
Let me go to Dr. Shabana on this. Dr. Shabana, do you agree that what Dr. Amna here is saying? She's saying that maybe even Israel itself, there's been a softening there. I'm not saying that they've agreed to a ceasefire. We are of course that's what we hope for. But do you think there has been a change, a slight one perhaps?
I think, as has been said earlier, the role of civil society is very important, specifically in the Western communities and the countries. This is one thing, and the second, I think it's going to be because the war they are fighting is getting on the screen everywhere. So it's not only the pressure from the West; it is all around, and even the people within the Israel, they started pushing. There's a strong impetus from their side that there has to be some sort of an arrangement where they can get their people back. So this was very important. So internal push is important, and that is why we see the ceasefire initially has focused on the hostage release. So it's basically a hostage release ceasefire. So this is what I can say at the moment, and let's hope other things mature in future.
Is a hostage related ceasefire different from a humanitarian pause, or do you think these are the same terms coined to perhaps just reflect a pause in the kind of brutality that we've seen?
Actually, I must say, Mahrukh, that it is a co-joint, but the first part, the major issue has been on the hostage, specifically from the Israel side, and so has from the Hamas side. But the Hamas has been pushing on that there should be a release of the aid and the fuel coming, from outside the Gaza into the areas where the people are suffering a lot and lot. But on the Israeli side, they have said, yes, we are going to allow some sort of the fuel and aid, but they haven't said that for how long and what is going to be the duration of time. If you look back earlier, there has to be even earlier the 3 hours break, according to the Israel, or the peace passage or whatever, where the aid was coming in, but on a limited supply. So they're quite on that. But to me, it seems that it is only with the sort of once the hostages are released, like the 50 are released from the Israel Palestinian side, like the Hamas and the Palestinian ones, they are coming up. There has to be, it will, if the peace prevails, there has to be a more of a expansion of, one can say, the hostage ceasefire. And once it is restored to some extent, the more opening of the aid and the, the fuel will obviously go into the war inflicted areas.
Let me come back to you. Dr. Amna, when we talk about release of hostages, the narrative that traditionally Israel tried to spin, Hamas and all of that, the fact that there are so many hostages that have to be released, doesn't that itself contradict that?
Yeah, you see that for Israel, a single hostage is the hostage, and they have brutally killed 15,000 people, and half of them were the children. And it is very ironic, Mahrukh, it has been the continuity of Israeli behavior in the past. You see that many times they have captive of Palestinian people, and then they have been exchanging them, and you see the ratio was 1 to 1,000. That against one Israeli, they used to return 100 or 500 or 1,000 even. That was the largest figure. So they are making this plea, justification that they have waged war just to release their captives with Hamas. And it was, I think that most of the sources, even in military and security areas, they see that Israel is taking this pause because they were running short of the ammunition and bombs. And they are taking their hostage back, and they would come with more thrive and more zeal to kill these Gazans and Palestinian. So, but I think that it is a credit of Hamas that they have securitized all these hostages, Israeli hostages, and despite all these carpet bombings, they are still secure and they are being exchanged. I think that is a very positive sign, and Israel should be grateful for this. And the 39 Palestinian they are releasing, you can see that how much desperate were for their families. But Israel always make this hue and cry, and the Israeli captive is a captive, and Palestinian person is
the double standards of,
these are the double standards of the whole world. The whole world we are seeing.
Dr. Shabana, we've, I think, spoken about this before also. As far as the double standards of the world are concerned, this is not new, and this is not the first time that we are looking at the world and the way that their standards are, their overall standard is different for the children of one country as opposed to the children of another. And we've seen that, unfortunately, very close up front with what's happening in Palestine at this time. In your opinion, this pause, humanitarian pause, or whether this whatever we may call it, I mean, of course, this brief pause of the hostilities, do you think it can translate into a ceasefire? Do you think it's something that perhaps the world pressure again can, because we saw earlier, as far as one major ally, a country that can make a difference to Israel, the US, stand firm with Israel. Do you think there's a chance that there something can change which can have some effect on Israel?
I think it's an opening of a transitory ceasefire that may extend to about 2 weeks at least. Because I think this is a testing time for both sides, and also the warring factions, that is this Hamas on one end, and then is the Israeli government, and the other are of course the US and the other countries who are also standing firm, UK and others, behind the Israel, and of course the opinion of the and the criticism of the Western world, and even the of the Muslim world, and also of the other countries versus the Israel. So it is actually a realism at play, where on one side the aggressor does they want to sow, but because of the globalization and the media war, what I feel is the war is on the televisions of every home. So it has become more than that. The humanitarian aspects are just changing. They know it is a realism, but the basic challenge is for Israelis how to gel their real aims according to their version with the humanitarian global terms that they agree to around the world, that are the norms, although they are not practiced in all that stuff. So for that stuff, and the US is facing a tough time on the diplomatic fronts. We all know that they are refraining from having major exposures, even for the diplomatic level, with the civil societies in the South, global South, and around the world. So they are hesitant. They can't afford to come, and take direct questions from the media and otherwise. So on the diplomatic front, there is a lot of pressure within the US and outside, and then around the neighbors. This is very important. Qatar and the Egypt and of course the Saudi Arabia and others, they are very nervous. They are caught in between. They were in a phase of opening up to the Israel because of they were thinking that we're going to have a major stability sort of a regime here. And interestingly, Iran is a bit quiet here on what is happening on the ceasefire front. So in short, I'm sorry I have taken a bit longer time,
No,
but the
no,
fact
please
of
go
the
on.
matter is the situation is complex, and I feel ceasefire arrangements are going to be more complex. But if they get complex and a bit prolonged, it's better for the lives of the Palestinians.
Do you agree with that, Dr. Amna?
Yeah, I partially agree, but I think that Dr. Shabana is very right that the US is facing a lot of pressure. But at the same time, you see the statement of the US general who was actually heading Iran-Iraq war, and he has been director of CIA. He said that US is having no option other than to stand with Israel, because otherwise China would take lead. And you know that the pressure of BRICS is on its place. You see the BRICS has condemned clearly the Israeli attack on Hamas. So it would be, I think that as we have seen previously that US is not going to retreat. They would deter to little extent, as they are having on diplomatic missions all over the world, but they want to appease their enemies and their allies both, that we are going to stand with Israel only till the destruction of Hamas, and we are not after Palestinians, and we are trying to.
But the Palestinian war has continued for a long time, even before the October 7th attack.
Yeah, I am telling you the statement. He said that the war would not stop for the weeks. It can continue for the months. And since Israel is not under the control of United States even, and United States has no option to leave Israel behind. So I think that war will be escalated, and Israel is out of control. It is the capacity of the Muslim world if they would put pressure, right? You see this statement of General Sisi. He said that there can be two-state solution, and somebody will take the responsibility to demilitarize Palestinians, and then we will take responsibility. But what is the stance of Hamas? What is the stance of Palestinians? That comes first, and for that purpose, Arabs has to expedite their diplomatic efforts to bring them on a solution where they can sit together. Otherwise, I think that Israel is not going to stop, and war would not be limited war.
Right, fair enough. Dr. Shabana, the stance of the allies in terms of, the allies, of course, US being the major ally, the Biden administration has taken a stance, and they've taken a stand with the Israel. As far as Europe is concerned, do you think there's been a change there? Do you think that can be built upon, and in coming days, maybe there's a ray of hope there?
What do you mean, the ray of hope for the Europe coming towards the Palestinian cause, or the other way around?
Perhaps that's what I'm saying, towards perhaps seeing sense as to what's happening, and perhaps angling more towards Palestine.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point you have taken. But Mahrukh, the point is that the people and around the world are forgetting about the Ukrainian war, and Europe is very upset on that. The US was always still pushing, supply arms and other countries to the Ukrainian, conflict issues. Now, what is happening there has become a second news, like what was happening in Afghanistan became a second news once the Ukrainian theater was opened up. So this has overshadowed war. What I see from the European narrative is, like Germany and others, they are steadfast with what is happening, on the Israeli front. They want to be with them. but like UK is the same, outside EU as well. But what we can see is importantly, there are many, many Norwegian and other countries, who want to have a sort of a peace arrangement, or you can say a stalemate arrangement in versus the Israel and the Palestinians, because these people are more concerned about the globalization economic imperatives. Obviously, they don't want US to be tied up in the Israeli theater and not put money into the Europe that they desperately want, whether it is for the economy, whether it is for the yuan. And on the other hand, they are also sick of the Europe too much interference on the Ukrainian war, where the relations with the Russia are being,
So
are
there is,
being
so these
sabotaged.
people, so the people of Palestine are, at the behest of these politics at this time, unfortunately.
This is a very, very strong point of view that you have given, rather a realistic based. I think the whole question of all the warfare theater is that the people are the sufferers. And I really believe the people, irrespective of the religion and the geography, one has to realize somehow the leaders or the strategic makers, I hope at some stage in world politics, they come to realize that it is only the Palestinian people that are suffering. Same is with the Ukrainian, the same is with the Kashmiris, the same is with the Afghani people. So this is where the wars, the theater ends up, and the
Right.
solution
It
always
is the
lies
people,
on the,
yes.
a sort of, you could.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for this segment. Thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Amna, thank you for joining us. Dr. Shabana, thank you for being with us. One hopes that sanity will prevail. One hopes that there will, things will rise above the politics for the world powers to see the kind of brutality at this time that we see in Gaza, for the people of Gaza, for the children of Gaza, for the women of Gaza, for the civilians of Gaza. We will be taking a short break, after which we'll come back and talk about what's happening on the home front as far as politics is concerned. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We have with us Agha Iqrar Haroon, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us. And Ali Rashid with the PPP. Thank you for joining us. Ji, Agha Sab, overall, as far as the political scene is concerned, is it a politics of electables at this time? We're seeing that happen on both sides. Isn't that true? And in the next elections, are we going to be looking at whoever amasses the most electables? What do you think will happen?
A very pertinent question. I believe the next election could be called the elections of electables.
Okay.
Elections of the, election of the electables, meaning by PML and is totally depending upon electables.
Okay.
And we had seen this electable politics in Pakistan in 2018 also. So what would be the change after elections? This is my question as a student of politics and political philosophy. And secondly, would electables mitigate the narratives? This is another issue. Because there is a hue and cry from youth.
Okay, let me interject here before I go to Ali. Do the electables have a narrative? Is that a legitimate?
They don't have a narrative. They have no narrative. That is why they switch the political parties like I change my quotes. So how can you be a person of narrative and you can change parties like that? Yesteryear they were in so and so party, then they switched the party to another party. One of the electable once told me, I would share his name with you. I asked him in a question, in an interview, why do you change parties? He said, sorry Iqrar, I don't change parties, the government change the parties. So they go only for the government.
Okay.
So they go with the wave, they go with the, you can say breeze, and they smell it and they change. And that is why they are electable.
Okay, fair enough. Let me go to Ali. Ji, Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Ali, there's a lot that is being, as far as the PPP is concerned, with the leadership at this time, Asif Ali Zardari Saab and Bilawal Bhutto also, there is a lot that is being said about their style. Is there a difference of style as far as the leadership is concerned, versus the old versus the new? What is the PPP's stance on this?
In my opinion, I think every individual has a different style. It's obviously there's the old and the new, the young and the more experienced, etc., etc. But generally speaking, in my opinion, every individual person has their own style of leading. Every person has their ideas and the way they want to uh, handle things and how their vision is very different. Similarly, so if you're asking me between Chairman Bilawal Sahab and Zardari Sahab, obviously they're two different individuals. Bilawal Sahab brings new ideas and change, etc., etc. A lot of pragmatic thinking, a lot of the things which the country needs right now. The kind we have kind of been doing rounds with the old situation. So I think it is needed. But that being said, at the same time, yes, experience also matters.
So it's
Sometimes
about the dynamism that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari offers versus the experience that Zardari Saab has, and of
yeah.
course, what will prevail, and is there going to be or is it about them working together? How does the party view this?
It's all about. I've been watching the media, but it's being made to seem like they're on different sides or in different parties. We have to understand they're part of the same team. If Zardari Saab has experience and if a young dynamic leadership Chairman Bilawal Saab has, so it's just a fusion. It's a good combination for the party because they are leading the party collectively and they're there. And I'm sure, okay, whatever ideas when they brainstorm whatever ideas prevails, I'm sure Zardari Saab takes in account for what Bilawal Saab has to say, and Bilawal Saab takes into account what Zardari Saab has to say. So overall, I think it's best of both the worlds for us as political workers because we get like rich experience from President, Zardari. And when it comes to the dynamic
But
leadership of
it's
Chairman
also
Bilawal,
about idealism and practicality of politics. And do you think that also is to an extent, an issue here?
I do agree it might be, but look, I'll give you my personal opinion here. I don't think there is a difference of opinion between them. But that being said, in my opinion, when you look at Chairman Bilal Saab, he's been the chairman of the party since he was 19. He's turning 35 now or has turned 35 now. He's been an MNA for 5 years. He's been a foreign minister. That is experience enough, in my opinion, to not to be, to lead from the front and do things like they should be done. And I think this entire thing is blown out of proportion, and the fact they're making it seem like that because of this interview, he got upset and left for Dubai. People don't even know. If you look at the itinerary, he had actually left for Dubai yesterday. It's they're making it seem like that he left today. The interview was last night, and when this interview is actually taking place, Chairman Bilawal was already in Dubai. But unfortunately, some people in the media are angling it and making it seem like a conspiracy theory, and they're making it seem like after the interview, Bilawal Saab was upset, and then today he left for Dubai. So if you actually look at the timeline, you'll understand this is nothing but speculations and conspiracies.
Fair enough.
So
let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Agha Sahab. Ji, Agha Sahab, we were talking about the PPP, for example. There has been a change. I mean, there's also, it is being said, whether you talk about a 2/3 majority, I think the PMLN had earlier said 2/3 majority. And I think the PPP leadership says that, it might be difficult for there to be a simple majority for any one party. Of course, then comes the role of the electables that we earlier also spoke about. So in your opinion, how do you see the palette at this time? Do you think it's going to be very, is there a chance of a 2/3 majority? Because we're also looking at joinings. We saw what happened in Balochistan with the PMLN, and PMLN claims it's going to continue, follow. We've also seen some of it happen with the PPP. It's also happening to an extent with the Istehkam party. So do you think it's going to be about, for any party, of course, aiming for a 2/3 majority, but even a simple majority, is it going to be possible without the role that these electables play?
Mahrukh, it is too early to say anything because electioning is yet to be started. And I can say PMLN has opted the formula politics, which is of course concentrating on electables. And in formula politics, sometimes you win, sometimes you categorically lose. And if we go through July 22 elections, PMLN opted for electables, and it was a you can say a ruthless defeat to PMLN. So had things changed? This is my question. I think things of course change every time, but I believe that things are changing against the formula politics, against the electables, because 21 million young voter has included in this list. And if you talk about the age bracket of 18 to 36 of voters, that is 44 million. If I'm not wrong, this is almost 4 crore or something in Pakistani language. So it's a very huge number, and they are young people.
And you think these people are looking for idealism?
I strongly believe they do.
And not necessarily the practicality of politics?
What is practice? If you are successful, this is practical. If you are loose, but you don't have any opinion about where your country is going and where country is heading, that is the problem of Pakistan.
But
we had always been the practical side. Okay, do this and do that, and we can move on. But youth is not ready for that. Look, I teach in universities, and not in one university,
but
several universities.
Very, not very long ago, the slogan of change has been defeated in an unprecedented manner in this country.
It was not defeated. I mean, if you talk about the Naya Pakistan, they had a lot of people with them. Not, of course, elections were not, the results were not as...
I'm saying that it failed miserably. I mean, I'm talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, the style of governance,
That is something else. This was basically the failure of the PTI, not the failure of the content, not the failure of the desire of youth. And remember, that time, this much, 44 million new, young voter of 18 to 36 was not included in the list.
Okay, so you're saying that that's different. Let me go to Ali. I'm going to ask him the same question. Ali, do you think that this change in your voters, at this time, so much youth has been added. Do you think that they are looking at a different style of politics from what has traditionally been followed in this country, and perhaps, this route of that we've seen, as far as having different people who are, joining different parties, is that the right way forward for all political parties, in your opinion?
I feel that the fact that a lot of youth has been added will benefit People's Party, because Chairman Bilawal is a young person himself. And if you see all the election campaign which he's been running, and the speeches which he's been given, he's been actually speaking to the youth. He's been appealing to the youth, and the youth can actually relate to him. He's telling them that if you choose me to come forward as the next Prime Minister, not only will I be a young person who will understand the issues the youth has, but also it'll be my first time as the Prime Minister, where in the previous times, let it be Mr. Imran Khan, let it be Shehbaz Sharif, let it be Nawaz Sharif, everybody who's in line to be Prime Minister has already been tried and tested. I'm somebody new. You haven't given me a chance. Give me a chance. Not only am I a young person, and you can relate to me because so many new voters which have been added are youngsters. And I feel that, now me being a political worker myself, and I go on ground myself, I see that flair in the young people. They come and they want to know more about Bilawal Saab, and they're very keen, because how can a young voter today relate to somebody who has who's almost in their 70s?
Will Punjab not, I don't know how age is necessarily, how much of it is a factor for the young voter, but do you think, of course Punjab will play a significant role in, it always has in traditional politics and who forms government. How is the PPP faring in Punjab?
You see, the dynamics can change very quickly and in a very different manner. What we don't understand, like the social media, the kind of technology today, 70 to 80% of the people in Pakistan have smartphones, and they have, even in remote areas and villages, there's access to social media. And when they see these speeches, when they see a young person speaking, giving speeches, talking about the youth, talking about change, talking about being never tried and tested, a lot of young people will be drawn to that. We cannot we cannot like underplay that, phenomena. In my opinion, it will have an impact. Electables, I'm not saying that they will not fare well. I mean, electables will always, be there, which we as a party in PPP are also working on. A lot of electables are joining our party too. But that being said, we have this advantage. We have this, people are, if you ask yourself, very in all honesty, are people satisfied with the system today? They're not. Do they want change? Yes. Do they want somebody new to lead who's never led before? Yes. Would they want somebody educated, somebody young, dynamic? Absolutely. Especially the new youth, which has just become voters. And especially if that person is actually appealing to them, trying to talk to them, who's going in every jalsa, he's appealing to the youth. And the program, his message, the narrative he's giving is that I'm young, you're young, let me help us help you. Bring me into power, make me the prime minister. I've never been tried and tested. All these guys have all been tested and failed.
Ali,
You never liked them in the
last
past.
question to you. There is, the PMLN is talking about a 2/3 majority. We saw Zardari Saab say that for any one particular party to get even a simple majority may prove to be a task and a half in this election.
Realistically speaking, yes.
So is that the PPP's stance? I mean, are you of course the PMLN is fairly confident. It seems to think it's going to be able to get those requisite electables, those people who they think will bring the seats home for them.
They can't. I don't think that will happen. I think Punjab plays a very key role when it comes to any party forming a government. But if you look at PMLN, they have always been a Punjab-centric party. But this time, a big chunk of the pie from Punjab will go to, maybe a little bit will go to PTI. A lot of it will go to PPP also. There'll be other players also. So PMLN cannot, like in the past times, and like from 2013 to 18, they had only seats in PMLN. They only had seats in Punjab. KP wasn't there, Balochistan wasn't there, Sindh wasn't there. But at that time, Punjab was vacant, as in Punjab was entirely theirs. But this time, there'll be many other players in Punjab. So it'll be all divided. But People's Party has the advantage of getting some seats from South Punjab, some seats from maybe Central Punjab, all of Sindh, as everybody's, every analyst, if you speak to them, they'll tell you People's Party will be getting Sindh again. Then we have our inroads in Balochistan. We may not have a majority, but we will get a lot of seats from there.
Right.
KP, we are working really hard on.
Unfortunately,
we're going to get a few seats from there.
Right.
So,
and unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Ali, I'm just going to go to Agha Saab. Agha Saab, do you agree? You think there's going to be a lot of division? And also, of course, we talk about Bilawal Bhutto Saab and, of course, the fact that he's young and dynamic. But as far as the PMLN is concerned, they're banking on the popularity of the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif Saab, and that's why he's returned, and that's why he's been welcomed, and that they believe that that is the kind of Pakistan, what he did earlier on, he can bring that. So there seems to be that difference, right?
No. After this new wave of the opting and finding electable, this categorically rejects the confidence over their own leadership. I mean, if they are so confident that on the leadership
but it does show the confidence of the electables in
yes. This is what you understand.
Fair enough. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Agha, Iqrar, Haroon Saab, thank you for joining us. Ali, Rashid, thank you for being with us today. Of course, as we grow nearer to the elections, we will see more of the kind of wave there is, the kind of build-up there is, the kind of momentum there is. We will be looking at a lot more speeches. We'll be looking at a lot more bravado as far as all political parties are concerned, whether it's a simple majority, whether it's a 2/3 majority. Of course, we will only know on February 8th. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.